Google and Twitter, Microsoft and Cyanogen, Apple and gaming. It's a collaboration celebration. Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 422 for Friday, September 11th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by the new Epson Workforce printers powered by Precision Core. Workforce is an award-winning line of all-in-one printers for your home office, small to large business, or corporate work groups. Visit Epson.com to find out more. Welcome, I am Megan Maroney. Let's get to today's tech news. The lines between mobile operating systems are getting blurry. First, Microsoft is making all of its best apps available on iOS and Android for free. And now, upstart Android operating system vendor Cyanogen is working with Microsoft to integrate their digital assistant Cortana into the next version of the Cyanogen OS. We reported earlier this year on Cyanogen's involvement with Microsoft, and now we're seeing a little bit more about what that's going to mean. You can already run a beta version of Cortana on Android, but in an interview with the International Business Times, the CEO of Cyanogen said that the natural language coupled with intelligence only really works if it's embedded in the framework of the OS. In other interesting partnership news, Google and Twitter are working together to get us our mobile content faster, or at least faster than Facebook or Apple. According to multiple sources, if you're using Twitter or Google search on your phone and you click a link, you'll be able to instantly see the article on your screen instead of having to wait a few seconds and possibly giving up and moving on. Facebook has a similar project called Instant Articles, when it's already rolling out with several deals they've made with big publishers. The big difference with Google and Twitter is that their new program won't involve exclusive deals. Sources say the project will be open source. Earlier this week, we talked about Apple's new News app and Snapchat's Discover News app. All the big players seem to have skin in the game, except maybe Microsoft, who appears to be too busy downloading files onto people's computers, even if they haven't asked for them. That's right, a user wrote into the Inquirer to say that his internet access had inexplicably slowed down to a crawl, and when he investigated, it appeared that his system was automatically downloading Windows 10, even though he had not agreed to the upgrade. Microsoft has confirmed that they are pushing some Windows 10 files to computers in the off chance that a user might want to upgrade at some point in the future. Microsoft told the Inquirer that if you've signed up for automatic updates through Windows Update, you will also get some files that help you get ready for Windows 10. When the upgrade is ready, the customer will be prompted to install Windows 10 on the device. So it isn't really a forced update, as some headlines would have you believe. But some people are still not happy about their bandwidth being clogged or data caps being used up by the files that they might someday need, maybe at some point, should they decide to upgrade to Windows 10. You've heard of Tor, right? It's an anonymous web surfing service designed to help improve people's privacy and security on the web. It's been great for whistleblowers, dissidents, and other people's whose lives could be threatened by what they do online in the name of justice. However, it is also a pathway to the dark web where you can buy all kinds of illicit goods ranging from illegal drugs to child pornography. This conundrum has gotten one well-meaning small-town library in New Hampshire in a little bit of trouble. ProPublica reports that the Kilton Public Library in Lebanon, New Hampshire, agreed to be the guinea pig in a project that involved contributing bandwidth to the Tor network. The library seems a natural place for this, since they're some of the last places in the world providing internet access to the disenfranchised. Starting in July, Tor users all over the world were able to mask their location by bouncing their internet traffic through the tiny public library. However, this week, ProPublica says that the project was abruptly stopped when the Department of Homeland Security sent a warning to the Lebanon, New Hampshire police that the library needed to shut down the project. Under fire from police and the community, the library has decided to discontinue the project temporarily until they decide what to do next. Coming up, Apple's Game On and Go Pokemon Go. But first, this episode is brought to you by the new Epson Workforce printers powered by Precision Core. Now you can do business better and leave laser printing in the dark. The new Epson Workforce printers use ink, not laser toner, and they're more efficient. The cost per page is up to half of a color laser printer. Epson developed the new print chip nozzles they're calling Precision Core. They fire nearly 40 million dots per second, precisely delivering the most appropriate amount of ink to achieve high-quality, high-speed printing. You get print shop quality with vibrant colors and clear, crisp text. Unlike laser printers, there's no warm-up time. You can print on a wide range of media. They're energy efficient. Epson has developed the next generation of inkjet performance that's beyond laser. Go to Epson.com today and find out what the new workforce printers can do for you and your business. That's EPSON.com. Epson, built to perform. All this week, we've been covering Apple News, new iPhones, giant iPads, Apple TV. Now, integrated through all of these new products are hints at what they can do for gamers. Serious gamers have always kind of looked down a little bit at their noses at Apple. Joining us today to talk about whether any of this disdain will change anytime soon is Mark Millian, tech editor at Bloomberg Business. Welcome back, Mark.
Hey, Megan.
So in terms of gaming, let's look at the products one at a time. I think the most obvious announcement for gamers, designed for gamers, was the Apple TV. Apple showed off a few games, a new remote that you could use like a Wii controller. What did you think of that part of the announcement?
I mean, personally, that was the most exciting for me because, you know, I use an Apple TV at home. And I mean, the gaming stuff I'm not super interested in because I have a PS4. And I find, you know, mobile gaming on the phone is good, but I'm not so sure how much of it I'll want to do on the big screen when I've got a real game console. But the other features of the Apple TV, particularly the remote and potentially some of the voice search stuff, sound really great, depending on Siri's attitude at any given time. I haven't had a great experience with Siri so far.
Right. I mean, I guess she's being improved all the time, as all artificial intelligence is. So when you talk about the remote, you're excited about just using Siri to, you know, find a TV show that you want to watch, not necessarily using it as a remote for gaming.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a shot. Yeah, I've played a little Crossy Road in my day, and that seems to be like the app that they're most excited about for some reason. So I'll play around with it. I think what's more interesting is some of the third-party remotes, which I've been thinking about picking up anyway to try out with Final Fantasy and some of the games on the iPad and on the phone. The Steel series, they're coming out with a new version of that remote for that controller, which is pretty similar to like an Xbox controller. They sell a version currently at the Apple Store, and they're doing a new one that's got like a lightning port and stuff on it. So I'll be interested in that just to check it out. But I mean, outside of playing, you know, kind of like 8-bit style games on the Apple TV, kind of like NES style games with that very basic remote that it comes with, I think you'll probably need an add-on to get, you know, to play with some of the more advanced games, some of the first-person shooters that they were talking about.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up Crossy Road. They seem really excited about it. I mean, I'm not sure what they were really thinking. You know, Crossy Road was built for a tiny mobile device, and then bringing it to the big screen, it did look a little bit about like the gaming of my day, the Frogger, which was great then. I mean,
it's a total Frogger knockoff.
It
Crossy
is.
Road.
So, yeah, I don't know if they're really expecting that to catch on or they were just kind of showing it off like, hey, you can play games on this.
Well, I mean, Apple is notoriously secretive with new products. And so they just pick a few developers. In this case, Crossy Road has one of the hottest games in the App Store right now. That changes like from week to week. So, you know, they worked with Crossy Road. I'm actually kind of glad that they decided to change it up from Epic Games for once, because they seem to rely on them for every new Apple product. They work with them early, and then they have, you know, some new Epic Games title to show off at an event. But, you know, I think once developers get their hands on this, it'll take several months for anything really interesting to start popping up. But I think just the fact that there are so many developers out there who are so proficient with Apple's tools, coding in Xcode, and then, you know, with some of the developments happening around Swift, like there could be some very interesting developments from people who maybe would not have developed for a console in the first place. So that really opens gaming up to, you know, a potentially new style of title. But I mean, you'll still have all the AAA games on consoles first and maybe exclusively.
Yeah, that's a good point. NVIDIA had a pretty funny infographic. I find most infographics amusing. It was on gaming. They're not very fond of the Apple TV, and they are very comfortable making fun of people like me who gave up gaming in the 80s. I think it sort of like follows through. If you like this, then you'll like that. If you like,
it's like a flow chart, I guess, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we might have it there. Yeah. So if you're watching the video version, you can see, if you like streaming, if you don't know what streaming is, stick with your TV. You can move on to a generic media streamer if you know a little bit more. It's pretty amusing. What do you think about this infographic? I know you had some strong feelings about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a product side-by-side comparison graphic that's linked from that NVIDIA page, and it's obviously just marketing material. It's kind of like glosses over some of the really big differentiators for some of NVIDIA's competition. I edited our review of the NVIDIA Shield, which is their kind of like Android TV game console-ish type thing, and they're trying some interesting things with it. Like they have this cloud streaming service for games, which they've pulled off like exceptionally well compared to the competition. But I mean, the titles are all so old, like they're from a generation of console ago or 3 years ago, like 3-year-old games. So I mean, the technology is interesting there, but they've got some work to do on actually bringing on publishers. But this is all kind of beside the point. I mean, NVIDIA is not selling a ton of Shields. Apple will sell a ton of Apple TVs. Sony will continue to sell a lot of PlayStation systems. Roku will sell a lot of cheap set-top boxes. And so this is a funny little graphic that probably won't get them very much mileage.
So now, about price. Have we gotten a price on Apple TV? Have you seen anything about what that would be?
I think they said it was going to be $149 for... I believe it's either 16 or 32 gigabytes, and then you get a step-up version for $199. Okay, so you brought it up on screen there. It's 32 gigs for $149, 64 for $199. I guess kind of like the weird thing around pricing this, like gigabyte-wise, which is obviously how Apple does all of their electronics, is that with the TV, they've been making the Apple TV for like 8 years, and they've never really talked about gigabytes. So I think for a lot of people, it's like, how many gigabytes do I need on my TV? Like, how many gigabytes is a movie? And you don't actually download movies, you still stream them. So I think they're going to have to train their sales staff in the stores to like actually walk people through why they would need to pay an extra $50 for a bigger unit.
Yeah, I was curious about that too. I wasn't sure what are we storing on there. But that's, the same thing. They're still selling.
I think it's mainly for apps, just like, the phone or because you don't, I'm pretty sure you still stream music the same way you do with the current Apple TV, stream videos, stream Netflix. So it's not like you're actually downloading anything physically to the device.
Right. You're not going to store your photos there or anything.
Right.
So the Apple TV wasn't the only device that they showed off that had something to do with gaming. The iPad Pro, they were also showing that off. Is that something that you imagine using as a gaming device?
No. I mean, the iPad, I think a lot of people are using for gaming, at least for the ones who bought an iPad, which is not like the whole world. But I think the iPads are interesting gaming devices. I don't think that paying so much more for a 13-inch version is going to attract a lot of gamers. I think their money is better spent on a console or even like a PlayStation Vita or a 3DS. I mean, I really see the Pro as a device maybe for students, although it's a little on the pricier end. Although when compared to if it's a laptop replacement, then maybe for students. Otherwise, for professionals, graphic designers, or even just like business people who want a light like device that they can carry around, that's sort of like the keyboard and the stylus kind of help play to that. But I think gamers who are interested in doing like some casual gaming on a tablet will want to go with a Mini or like an Air, something that's much cheaper and will get you pretty comparable mileage with the games that they have available for it.
So how about on the new iPhones? Is 3D Touch? That was what they showed off. That it's sort of like the right-click menu. You can press it and do different things that you couldn't do before. Get right into the device. But they also showed off some things you could use with gaming with 3D Touch. Do you imagine this being a good addition to your mobile gaming?
Yeah, I mean, they showed a demo of a game with 3D Touch at the event. It was like a shooting game where if you press down harder on the screen, then it kind of like zooms in where you're shooting, so you get kind of like a more precise shot. 3D Touch I find to be very interesting. We got like an inside look at the development of 3D Touch, and the editor of Business Week magazine went inside the Apple design studio and got a look into this, what they described as a multi-year process of developing this feature, which it seems so simple, and I haven't personally used it, so I haven't quite grokked it yet, but from what I've heard from many people who have used it say it's like such a profound change and just like completely changes the way you use your phone on a day-to-day basis. And that was kind of the idea behind this. But as it pertains to gaming, having a whole other dimension on which to kind of like interact with your device is a pretty big deal. And like when you see this just in a very rudimentary way, as it's been implemented in like the PlayStation, for example, when they added sort of touch sensitive buttons that respond to how hard you press it, like that's become standard in a lot of games, particularly sports games, where it's like, how hard you want to kick the ball, or with shooting, like if you hold it down lightly, it'll bring up your gun, or you press the X button like deeply, then it'll shoot. So I mean, it could be a big deal for games.
It was interesting that they chose to show that much more involved game from Pixel Toys on the tiny device as opposed to Crossy Road on the giant TV. It was an interesting choice, I think.
Yeah, totally. I think probably the Apple TV is less done, and so they just had to like do a much more basic implementation to kind of show off the type of games that could be possible. I mean, they're not releasing it until I think they said late October, whereas the iPhone, they'll start shipping, in about a week. So yeah, I think it'll take time, but the Apple TV will probably produce some interesting and original games that probably would not work so well on a 5-inch screen.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the phones. It's interesting that they've been working on that for so long, and we haven't really heard anything about it. I mean, it seems like we think we know every secret that Apple ever has, but that they kept that one pretty well, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you see pieces of it in the Apple Watch, for example, with Force Touch, which they've also added to some of the newer Macs. It's a much more basic version of it. 3D Touch, really has sensitive depth levels where you can press like sort of hard, and then the screen like slightly pops into view, or you press even harder and then it fully pops into view. I think what Apple's pulled off in the software in iOS 9 is, not like anywhere near what we'll see in a year or two when developers really start to think of like unique ways to use depth and force in their apps.
So let's move on to some other non-Apple gaming. Super Mario Maker released today. You excited about that?
I don't have a Wii U like most people in the world, but I have a friend who does, so I'm very excited to play the maps that he makes. I mean, if I had a Wii U, the thing I would be most pumped about is just having all these new Super Mario levels available to me, and like all the different versions of Mario, because they have like the original Mario graphical styling, and then there's Super Mario World that you can kind of switch to and get like kind of like a different sort of environment to play in. And then there's just like all these people around the world who are creating like some very compelling, interesting new maps. I think one of the game publications had the creator of Castlevania create a map in Mario Maker. So I think like once they start to get like the really serious people in, and then you can kind of separate the wheat from the chaff and just download the absolute best Mario levels, like it'll be endless hours of entertainment.
And so yesterday also we talked about Pokemon Go briefly, but I wanted to get your opinion on it. This is the new game that they don't have it out yet, but they showed a video that did not look at all real, but it's sort of an augmented reality. You're out in the world, and it's based on Ingress, which I just learned today is a real game where you do go out in the real world. Have you ever played Ingress?
I haven't, but it sounds super weird. Like I've heard about it, and it was very strange to me that Google bought it and had it for a while. They spun off the company that makes Ingress just a few weeks ago, probably in anticipation of this deal with Nintendo. Ingress is, I guess for anyone who doesn't know, it's like this augmented reality smartphone game where you have to physically go out into the world and kind of like claim different locations. And then there's other people who are also vying for the same locations. I'm probably butchering what this is, but I haven't personally tried it. But it sounds crazy. I mean, once you attach an IP like Pokemon to it, then it becomes like a really potentially big deal. I think this game has potential to be really huge.
So it's a wearable that you have. It's like a bracelet, like a little piece of plastic and a bracelet that you wear around your wrist, I guess, for the.
I think the wearable is optional.
Okay.
I think but you're right. Nintendo is building this like bracelet kind of thing that has like a rumble feature on it, so that I think they said it's more designed around, you know, if the parent has the game on their phone and they have like a toddler who also wants to kind of be involved in the action, they can wear the bracelet. But the game itself, I think, can be fully contained on a smartphone where you're holding the phone up. It's using the camera from the device to kind of capture the world, and then on the screen it overlays maybe like a Pokemon on it, and then you can kind of like throw a fake Pokeball to capture him or like compete with other people. Augmented reality on phones has not really taken off in any use case, but in gaming either. So I think like once you bring such a huge brand like Pokemon and Nintendo to it, and this is a really cool idea, if they can pull this off, like this could be one of the biggest new apps for next year.
Well, the video looks really interesting. I mean, everyone is involved. I'm not sure who's actually working or doing jobs. Maybe the robots are all doing the jobs at this point?
It's totally conceptual, but like if they can do even half of this stuff and the ideas are amazing, then this could be awesome.
So do you think, where is the future of gaming going? Is it more in like the TV, the big screen, the small screen, the more technology, the Force Touch, and being able to just have our own device? Or do you think that we're really headed in that direction where it's more augmented reality or virtual reality?
I think it's going everywhere. I mean, game console sales continue to survive and thrive. I mean, Call of Duty continues to sell insane amounts of units. GTA 5 was sold, you know, $1 billion worth within just a few months. So consoles continue to stick around and to do well. Mobile gaming on, you know, the iPhone and Android have introduced video games to people who never would have played video games in the past. So that's widened the audience considerably. And then you have all of these new interesting features that are coming to phones. You've got these very cheap set-top boxes like the new Apple TV, like the NVIDIA Shield, which I think is just $200, about half the price of a PS4, that could potentially introduce gaming to yet another whole new audience that would have never thought about playing games before because they didn't want to plunk down the money. I mean, it's like price is a really big factor. And I think the Wii demonstrated that because it came out around $200 and was a massive, massive hit. So I think, you know, we'll like see everybody playing games. I think, Megan, you will even have to return to gaming at some point soon.
I will. Well, I think you're right with the everywhere. I mean, you take a game like Minecraft, which I can understand because I have children who are very involved in Minecraft, and that's a game that's on all the platforms. I mean, you know, they play it on their small devices. You can play it now on their TV. Apparently, there'll be a great app for Apple TV that you can use, you know, even with the portable version.
And now the different platforms can play against each other, which is a unique thing we haven't really seen before, where you can have somebody on on the phone version of Minecraft play against somebody on the Xbox version, against somebody on the PC version. And so all of this is kind of converging, particularly as mobile devices get so much more powerful, that you can get a somewhat comparable experience in many games and then have them all sort of interacting and being social at the same time.
Right, and then you get the HoloLens, which will eventually appear at some point, and that, Minecraft is what they always show off with a HoloLens. So, yeah, the future is almost here, apparently. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Mark Millian is a tech editor at Bloomberg Business. He's at Mark Millian on Twitter. It's always a pleasure to talk to you about business or gaming.
Likewise.
Take care. That's it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. We are on Facebook. You can find us at facebook.com/technewstonight. Don't forget to use the number 2. You can like us to get links to the show when it's posted and some of the stories that we are talking about that day. And if you want to be part of the conversation, post a comment on the stories. We'll read the best ones right here on this show. You can also subscribe at twit.tv/TN2. Write to us at TN2@twit.tv and watch live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today, every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Go ahead and subscribe to that one, too, if you haven't already. I am Megan Maroney. Thanks for watching.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by Cachefly.com.